What happens when a Hollywood icon walks onto a daytime talk show, and the entire room feels the temperature drop? Before we dive into the moment that left millions stunned, don't forget to subscribe to Stage View and like and comment to keep these wild celebrity stories coming. Now, let's step into the moment that changed everything. It began the way these things usually do. Bright lights, a smiling audience, and the familiar polished chaos of the View's studio. Cameras swung across the cheering crowd as the theme music faded. The hosts settled into their seats, each wearing that practiced on-air warmth they had mastered over years of daytime television. Everything was exactly as it should have been, until Emma Stone walked out. She appeared from behind the curtain with a soft smile, her emerald dress catching the light in a way that made the audience gasp before they even realized they had. She looked calm, confident, almost too calm, as though she already knew something no one else in the room did. The applause swelled, but there was a strange undercurrent, an electric hum, like everyone sensed that something was about to snap. Even Joy Behar, who was usually the first to crack a joke, leaned back slightly, studying Emma with an expression that didn't match her smile. Emma took her seat. The music faded entirely, and for a split second, the room went unnaturally quiet. Then Joy spoke. "Well, Emma, you've been busy," she said in that signature tone of hers, half teasing, half probing. "Another award nomination, another movie, another viral moment. You're basically everywhere." The audience laughed lightly, but Emma didn't. What she did instead was tilt her head, her expression soft but undeniably sharp. "Busy is one word for it," she replied. "But I'm here because something happened that I think needs to be said out loud." It wasn't the kind of line actresses throw out on talk shows. It didn't match the pre-interview notes, the scripted jokes, the gentle publicity fluff. It was a statement with weight, and Joy felt it. She blinked once. "Well," she said, "you know we don't shy away from honesty around here." The other co-hosts exchanged glances. Whoopi raising a brow, Sunny leaning back as if giving Emma space, Sarah shifting slightly in her chair, like she could already feel the tension rising from the floor beneath them. Emma inhaled slowly. "Last week," she began, her eyes locked on Joy's, "you made a comment about me." A murmur rippled through the audience. Joy's smile faltered just a hair, barely visible, but the cameras caught it. They always do. "I make a lot of comments," Joy said, her tone light but tightening around the edges. "You'll have to be specific." Emma didn't look away. "You said I was emotionally volatile on set, that I overreacted to a situation you didn't even witness." She paused, her voice steady but threaded with a quiet fire. "And then you implied that it was some kind of pattern." The air went thin. Even the cameraman on the left side of the stage tilted forward, forgetting for a second he was supposed to be invisible. Joy opened her mouth, but Emma continued, her voice cutting cleanly through whatever defense had been forming. "That wasn't just commentary," she said. "That was personal." Joy sat back, blinking once, slow, deliberate. "Emma," she said carefully, "this is a talk show. We talk about celebrities, we talk about movies, we talk about public moments. None of it is meant to be taken." "Then why did you phrase it like you knew me?" Emma interrupted, her tone sharper now, like a blade finally unsheathed. "Why say it with that certainty? Why shape a narrative that wasn't true?" The audience's silence was seismic. No one clapped. No one moved. The show's producers hovered just off stage, unsure if they should cut to commercial or let the moment burn on live TV. Whoopi glanced toward the control room, then back at the unfolding confrontation, recognizing that whatever this was, it was bigger than a PR hiccup. Joy's expression shifted. Not anger, not defensiveness, something more complicated. A flicker of being caught off guard by someone she underestimated. She crossed her arms. "If I said something that upset you, that wasn't the goal," she replied. "But this show thrives on discussion, on pointing out things people notice." Emma leaned forward slightly. "But you didn't notice it. You invented it." That line hit harder than anything that had been said so far. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It landed like a stone dropped in still water, rippling all the way to the back row. Everything slowed. The audience breathed as one, waiting for Joy's next move. Behind the cameras, the floor manager raised his hands, signaling the hosts to keep going. No commercial. Not yet. Joy sat still for a long moment. Look, she said finally, choosing her words like someone stepping through a minefield. We comment on public perception. If something is being said. But it wasn't, Emma countered, voice trembling now, but not from fear. More from something rawer. There were rumors. Yes, there always are. But when you say something, it becomes real. It becomes a headline. She paused, the emotion rising in her chest, visible in the tightening of her throat. You changed the narrative of who I am, she said. And you didn't even ask me if any of it was true. A woman in the second row put her hand over her mouth. Another leaned forward as though witnessing history in the making. The hosts, all of them seasoned veterans of live television, remained frozen in their seats, watching this small battle unfold in front of them with the same disbelief the audience felt. Joy swallowed, her gaze briefly dropping before she pulled it back up to meet Emma's. I didn't know you took it that personally, she said. But you are a public figure. That doesn't mean I'm not a person, Emma whispered. It was barely audible, yet the entire studio felt the weight of it. For the first time, Joy didn't respond immediately. She looked down at her hands, then back up, her expression caught between conflict and calculation. Sunny cleared her throat, trying to ease the growing pressure between them. Maybe we should take a moment, she suggested gently. Emotions are high right now. But Emma shook her head. No, I came here to say this. I need to say it. She turned to Joy fully. You made me feel small, she said. Like my feelings were a joke. Like my humanity was optional. And I want to know why. Joy stiffened. You're putting a lot on a single comment. No, Emma replied softly. I'm putting a lot on the way you dismissed me afterward. The audience collectively exhaled. A tension snapped that had been building since the moment Emma stepped on stage. Joy's eye flickered. Surprise? Guilt? Irritation? Even she didn't seem sure. Finally, she leaned forward, voice low. What exactly do you want from me? Emma considered her answer. When she finally spoke, it wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It was painfully, piercingly honest. To be treated like I matter, she said. No one breathed. Emma sat back slowly. Joy stared at her. The entire studio vibrated with the kind of silence that feels like the moment before a storm hits. Heavy, electric, waiting to rupture. And that's when the floor manager finally signaled to cut to commercial. But the cameras kept rolling. Because what happened next would leave fans speechless. The red light above the main camera blinked 3 times. The unmistakable signal that they were, despite the chaos, still very much live. Someone in the control room must have hesitated, unsure whether to cut away or let the confrontation breathe. Whatever the intention, the result was clear. The world was still watching. The host's earpieces crackled with urgent whispers from producers. Whoopi pressed a finger to hers, narrowing her eyes as she listened. We're staying with it, she murmured under her breath, barely audible but enough for the nearest microphone to catch. They want to keep rolling. Joy heard it too, and a shadow of frustration flickered across her face. Being cornered on live TV was never part of the job description, even after decades in front of a camera. But she lifted her chin, her posture stiffening as though bracing for impact. Emma, meanwhile, sat quietly, too quietly. Her stillness was the kind that vibrated, charged with emotion she was barely holding back. The audience sensed it too. No one coughed, no one whispered, no one even shifted in their seat. Every person seemed afraid to break the spell of the moment. When the show returned from the commercial, there was no upbeat music, no witty banter, just the raw, unfiltered tension between 2 women now locked in a battle neither had intended to start, but neither seemed willing to walk away from. Whoopi tried to ease back into the conversation with professional composure. All right, we're back, she said, her voice steady but carrying a note of warning, as though reminding everyone that the world was watching. Let's take a breath. We can talk this through. Talk, Joy repeated, leaning slowly forward. Sure. Let's talk. Emma met her gaze, unflinching. That's all I wanted. Joy exhaled sharply, her patience thinning. Emma, you're acting like I called you some kind of monster. It was a small comment. A joke, even. People exaggerate. It's entertainment. The word entertainment hit Emma like a slap. So my personal life, my emotional well-being, is entertainment. It's not that deep, Joy snapped, and the audience reacted immediately. Small gasps, whispers, widening eyes. Emma's voice dropped. It is to me. A pause. A long, suffocating pause. Sunny looked between them, sensing that tensions were slipping into dangerous territory. Let's find common ground here. Joy, is it possible you didn't realize how your words affected her? Even unintentionally? Joy breathed in, then out slowly. Maybe, she admitted. But Emma, actors deal with criticism every day. You know that. Why is this different? Emma swallowed. Her eyes glistened, not with tears, but with the weight of something she had been carrying for far too long. Because you didn't criticize my work, she said quietly. You criticized me. Joy started to respond, but Emma continued before she could. You made it sound like I'm unstable. Like I'm a problem. People see that. People believe that. And maybe you didn't care about the effect it would have. But I did. Joy blinked, taken aback. The sincerity in Emma's voice was disarming, cutting through the defensiveness like a blade. For a brief moment, Joy looked almost unsure. It was Sarah who broke the silence. Emma, she said softly, did something happen recently that made this feel bigger than just a comment? Emma hesitated. Her fingers curled gently around the armrest of her chair. She wasn't someone who liked exposing vulnerability. Not in interviews, not in public, not even in private. But it wasn't just about her anymore. It was about what that comment had represented, how it echoed something deeper she'd been trying to quiet. There was an incident, she admitted, her voice steadier than her trembling hand. On set. Something emotional. Something difficult. But it was private. It wasn't meant to become a media spectacle. The audience leaned closer. Joy's eyes narrowed, not out of hostility, but curiosity. Then why does it feel like you're blaming me for something that started somewhere else? Emma's jaw tensed. Because your comment made it worse. Joy's brows knit together. How? Emma inhaled shakily. Because your voice carries. It validates things people whisper about. And after you said what you said, my team got flooded with calls. My director asked me if I was okay. Producers questioned my stability. Reporters reached out asking for statements. And I had to stand there and pretend I wasn't hurting. She paused, her breath catching for a fraction of a second. All because of a line you threw out in less than 10 seconds. Joy's face softened barely. She wasn't used to being held accountable in this way. She wasn't used to her words having consequences she had to look at directly. Whoopi watched the exchange with a measured gaze, letting the silence linger long enough for the weight of Emma's confession to settle over the room. Still, Joy lifted her shoulders. I can admit when I'm wrong, she said. But I won't take responsibility for the entire internet reacting. That's not on me. Emma's expression hardened. It is when you gave them something to react to. A hush fell over the audience. One of those deep, collective silences that feels like everyone is holding their breath at once. Joy leaned in further, her voice firm. I won't be the villain in your story. And I'm not trying to make you one, Emma replied, leaning in just as closely. But I need you to understand the effect you had. I need you to see me, not the version of me you joked about. Me, the person sitting in front of you. Their faces were inches apart. The tension could have snapped under its own weight. But it didn't. Instead, Joy slowly leaned back, her mouth tightening into a line that betrayed a lifetime of learning how to protect herself from criticism. On stage, online, anywhere. That's fair, Joy said after a moment. But you have to admit, you're being emotional about this. Emma froze. The audience froze. Every host froze. Joy seemed to realize, too late, that she'd stepped onto a landmine. Emma's voice was barely a whisper. Don't do that. Joy blinked. Do what? Reduce me to a stereotype, Emma said. When a man gets upset, he's passionate. When a woman gets upset, she's emotional. The audience erupted, not cheering, not booing, just noise. Shock. Recognition. A collective sound of people who had heard this argument too many times in their own lives. Joy raised her hands defensively. I didn't mean it like that. But you did, Emma said. Because that's what you think. Because that's what people think. And I'm tired of pretending it doesn't hurt. Her voice trembled again. Joy didn't respond. Not right away. And the quiet in the studio felt like a vacuum. Sarah shifted in her seat, eyes wide. Sunny bit the inside of her cheek, choosing silence, letting the moment unfold in its rawest form. Finally, Whoopi stepped forward, her tone softer than before. Emma, she said, I think what you're saying is that the comment hit a nerve because you've dealt with it before. Emma nodded. And Joy, Whoopi continued, turning to her co-host, I think Emma's asking you to recognize that your words carry weight, maybe more weight than even you realize. The spotlight swung between them, illuminating their faces in stark, unforgiving clarity. Joy breathed out. Emma waited. The audience leaned in. Joy finally spoke. Maybe I didn't think enough about the impact, she said slowly. Maybe I should have. Emma felt something in her chest loosen, but she didn't let herself exhale just yet. Joy continued, her voice quieter. But I never meant to hurt you. I never meant to make you feel small. And yet you did, Emma whispered. Joy winced. I'm trying to understand. Then listen, Emma said. A moment lingered, fragile, suspended. But before Joy could answer, a voice rang out from the audience. Let her finish. The entire studio gasped. Even security snapped their heads toward the source of the shout. Emma turned toward the crowd, startled. Joy's eyes widened in shock and indignation. Whoopi straightened in her chair. A producer rushed to the edge of the stage, unsure whether to signal security or let the moment play out. The tension that followed was unlike anything the show had seen in years. Raw, volatile, unpredictable. Because what happened next wouldn't just deepen the confrontation. It would change the entire energy of the room. And it would push both women to a breaking point neither of them saw coming. The shout hung in the air like a suspended blade, sharp enough to slice through the silence that had swallowed the studio. Emma blinked, startled. Joy whipped her head toward the audience, her expression flickering between disbelief and irritation. Even Whoopi, who had seen nearly every kind of on-air chaos imaginable, looked momentarily stunned. Security hesitated at the edge of the stage, waiting for a cue. No one gave one. Emma swallowed, her heartbeat echoing loud enough, in her ears at least, to drown out the murmurs rising behind the cameras. She hadn't expected anyone to jump into the moment. She certainly hadn't expected someone to defend her. Not like that. Not so loudly. Not so unapologetically. Joy set her jaw. We can't have audience interruptions, she said, pointing toward the crowd with a tremor of barely contained frustration. This is still a show. But Emma, still gripping the armrest, looked out toward the voice that had cut through the tension. A young woman stood halfway back in the crowd, her hands trembling but raised defiantly. She deserves to speak, the woman said. Her voice wavered, but her conviction didn't. You keep cutting her off. Gasps. A ripple of shock. Sarah shifted uncomfortably, smoothing the hem of her skirt. Sunny pinched the bridge of her nose, sensing everything spiraling further with every breath. But Joy. Joy's face hardened. Ma'am, Joy said sharply. This is a live taping. There are rules. The woman didn't sit. Didn't even blink. And you're breaking them right now, she shot back. You won't let her talk. Emma felt her chest tighten, not with fear, but with something strangely close to gratitude. But gratitude mixed with dread. This wasn't helping. Not the way the woman thought it would. It was pouring gasoline on a fire that already threatened to consume the room. Whoopi raised both hands. All right, let's all calm down. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were scanning the control room, silently begging someone to step in. No one did. Joy turned back toward Emma. This is what I mean, she said, frustration spilling into her tone. This reaction. People turning this into something bigger than it is. Emma felt the words hit her like a cold wave. You're still not hearing me, she whispered. Joy exhaled sharply. Because you're acting like I attacked you. Emma sat up straighter. You did. Joy's mouth fell open in disbelief. For saying one comment, Emma's voice rose, not in anger but in hurt. Real, unfiltered hurt. It wasn't one comment, she said. It was years of being dismissed, misunderstood, mocked for things I never even did. Just because it's easy for people to take a woman's emotional life and turn it into a punchline. The audience murmured again, sympathetic this time. Connected. Moved. Emma clasped her hands tightly, her knuckles turning pale. You made it sound like I'm unpredictable. Like I'm fragile. Like I'm unstable. Her breath hitched for a moment. Do you know what it feels like to have your worst insecurities validated by someone with your platform? Do you? Joy's face twitched. You're putting so much weight on this. Because it is heavy. Emma fired back, her composure cracking. You say something for a laugh, but it becomes a headline. My mother called me crying, Joy. Crying. Because she thought something was wrong with me. Sarah looked down, her jaw tightening. Sunny's eyes shimmered with something like empathy. Even Whoopi's stoic expression softened. Joy leaned back, thrown by the revelation she hadn't prepared for. I didn't know about that. You didn't ask, Emma replied. The words landed between them like a stone. The young woman in the audience slowly lowered herself back into her seat. The room's energy shifted, not blowing up but condensing. Pulling tighter. Sharper. Joy opened her mouth again, but this time her voice was quieter, more contained. I make jokes for a living, she said. It's what I do. Sometimes things come out wrong. Sometimes things get taken too seriously. Emma didn't flinch. Then maybe the joke isn't worth making. Joy stared at her, really stared at her, for the first time since the interview began. And something changed. It wasn't big or dramatic. It was small. A softening at the edge of her eyes. A shift in her shoulders. The faintest flicker of recognition. As though she suddenly saw not the celebrity, not the actress, not the Oscar winner, but the person. The moment was fragile. Delicate. On the brink of becoming something meaningful. But then, from backstage, a producer stepped out, gesturing urgently. Cut. Cut now. But the cameras didn't cut. The signal didn't change. Someone in the control room hesitated again. This was too big, too raw, too explosive to walk away from. Joy saw the producer. Emma didn't. Joy's eyes narrowed slightly, frustration building again from the pressure of the moment. She leaned forward. Emma, she said, choosing her words carefully but not softly. You came on this show ready for a fight. Emma blinked. No, I came here for honesty. Joy crossed her legs tightly. Then why are you so on edge? The studio froze. The audience's collective inhale was almost audible. Emma looked stunned, shaken. Then something inside her cracked wide open. On edge, she repeated, her voice breaking into a whisper. I'm on edge because every time I open my mouth lately, people twist it into something I didn't mean. I'm on edge because your comment made me look like a joke. I'm on edge because I'm tired of pretending it doesn't get to me. Joy stared. Silent. Emma continued, tears finally welling, though she blinked them back fiercely. I never wanted to be the kind of person who cries on talk shows. I never wanted to be the person who lets strangers on the internet get in her head. But I'm human, and you made me feel like I wasn't allowed to be. A single tear escaped, sliding down her cheek. The room felt it. Everyone felt it. The tear didn't make her weak. It made her real. Viscerally real. Achingly real. Joy swallowed hard, but she didn't look away. Sunny leaned forward, her voice almost a whisper. Emma, thank you for saying that. Sarah nodded, her own eyes glistening. You didn't have to share all of this. But you did. Whoopi exhaled slowly. It takes a lot of courage to say what you just said. But Joy wasn't ready to fold. Courage is one thing, she said softly, but blaming me for everything you're experiencing? That's not fair. Emma's gaze sharpened. I'm not blaming you for everything. I'm asking you to take responsibility for the part you played. Joy hesitated. Her lips parted slightly as if she might respond. But then she stopped, caught in some silent internal battle. And in that pause, a voice whispered through the audience. Say you're sorry. Soft. Almost pleading. Joy froze. Emma froze. The audience sat as still as statues. Joy's gaze darted toward the crowd, then back to Emma, then back again, caught between pride and pressure. Emma watched her, breath trembling. Joy finally spoke, but the words weren't an apology. It's not that simple, she said. Emma's face fell. Just slightly, just long enough to show the wound beneath her composure. Joy continued, her voice tight. I won't be forced into saying something I don't mean. The audience murmured, confusion, disappointment, even anger rippling through the rows. Emma wiped her cheek with the back of her hand. No one's forcing you, she whispered. People are just asking you to see me. Joy's mouth tightened. You don't get to control how I see you. The sentence hit the room like thunder. Emma inhaled sharply. That was when the atmosphere shifted. Not tense, not confrontational, but cold. Like everything warm had been drained out of the space. Whoopi stepped in quickly. We need a breath. All of us. But neither Joy nor Emma moved. The two women sat locked in an emotional standoff, the entire studio audience holding on like witnesses to an unfolding storm. And then, without warning, Emma stood. The audience gasped. The hosts froze. Joy flinched. Emma, Sonny whispered. Emma didn't speak. Not yet. She stood there, hands trembling at her sides, breathing hard, not with rage, but with something deeper. Something raw. Something that had been clawing at her from the inside. Joy stared up at her, uncertain, off balance. Emma finally spoke, and her voice changed everything. I stood up, she said softly, because I'm done shrinking. The room erupted, not in applause, not in noise, but in pure emotional shock. Joy blinked rapidly, her composure faltering for the first time. Emma continued. I'm done letting people define me. I'm done letting comments become truths. And I'm done pretending I'm okay when I'm not. Joy opened her mouth, but no words came out. Emma took a step back from the table, her voice trembling but stronger than ever. You don't have to apologize, she said. You just have to understand. And Joy, for the first time since the confrontation began, looked like she didn't know what to say. The silence that followed wasn't tense anymore. It was heartbreaking, because what Emma said next would shatter the room completely. I came here hoping we could fix this, she whispered. But maybe I was wrong. Joy's face fell, surprise, hurt, defensiveness all crashing together. Emma turned, as if she might walk off stage. But before she could, Joy stood too. Wait, the word cracked through the air. Emma froze. The audience froze. Every camera turned sharply toward Joy, as though sensing the moment everything would shift again. What Joy said next would change the trajectory of the confrontation entirely. But that is where the moment hung suspended. A breath, a cliff, a heartbeat. Because what followed would leave not only the studio, not only the hosts, not only Emma, but the entire world watching, speechless. Joy's voice sliced through the air, not loud, not forceful, but desperate. Wait! Emma stopped mid-step, her back half turned to the table, her breath visible in the tension-heavy silence. The studio lights hummed quietly overhead, casting long shadows across the stage. No audience member dared to whisper. No host dared to move. Joy stood stiffly, as though her body wasn't used to rising under pressure. Her face was conflicted, torn between instinct, pride, and something that looked painfully close to regret. Emma turned slowly, her expression unreadable. Not angry, not soft, just tired, deeply, profoundly tired. Joy swallowed. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Emma's eyes glimmered, for the first time not with frustration or hurt, but with a fragile vulnerability. But it did. Joy nodded, her throat tightening. I know. A moment. Thin as glass. One wrong word could shatter it. Joy exhaled through her nose, steadying herself. You're right. I didn't think before I spoke. I didn't think about how it would hit you or anyone else. A murmur rippled through the studio. Emma stared, unsure whether she dared believe the moment was shifting. Joy's voice lowered. You're not unstable. You're not what I implied. You're a human being with feelings, and I treated you like a headline instead of a person. Emma blinked hard, her chest tightening. Joy forced herself to meet her eyes. I'm not good at apologizing. God knows, people tell me that all the time. But, I'm sorry, Emma. The word sorry hung in the air like a fragile truce flag. The audience gasped, some in shock, some in relief, some in disbelief that Joy Behar, of all people, had actually said it. But Emma didn't respond right away. She stepped forward slowly, cautiously. Her voice was soft. Thank you. Joy nodded once. You deserve it. Another moment, not tense this time, but raw. Real. Almost intimate in its sincerity. Whoopi let out a breath she'd been holding so long that her shoulders dropped visibly. Sunny placed a hand over her chest. Sarah blinked back tears she pretended weren't there. The tension that had wrapped around the room like a fist slowly loosened. The audience exhaled in unison, shoulders sinking, hands relaxing, some even wiping at their eyes. But the moment wasn't over. Emma looked down briefly before raising her gaze again. The fire in her dimmed, but not extinguished. I didn't come here to embarrass you. I came here because I didn't want this to spiral. I wanted to stop feeling like I was being talked about instead of talked to. Joy nodded again, the weight of the day finally settling into her expression. And I should have talked to you. Not about you. Emma gave a small, tired smile. The kind that says I'm relieved, but I'm not healed. Maybe we both learned something today. Joy chuckled weakly. I definitely learned I should never underestimate you. You shouldn't underestimate anyone, Emma replied gently. A beat. Joy cracked the faintest smirk. Even audience members yelling at me? The audience laughed, a nervous, cathartic ripple of relief that washed the tension from the room like a tide pulling back from shore. Emma's smile widened, soft and genuine. Especially them. And just like that, something shifted. Not completely healed, not fully resolved, but moved. Grown. Softened. Whoopi stepped in, sensing the window for control had returned. All right, she said, voice warm. How about we all breathe for the first time in 10 minutes? The audience roared with laughter, true, relieved laughter. The kind that breaks a spell. Sarah leaned toward the camera, still blinking. I don't think anyone out there took a breath either. Sunny nodded. This is one of those conversations people will talk about for a long time. Joy looked at Emma. You okay? Emma took a steadying breath. I think. I will be. Joy extended her hand. Emma hesitated, for just a moment, then took it. The audience applauded. Loud, emotional, powerful applause that filled the studio like a wave crashing onto shore. Not just polite applause. Not just supportive applause. It was the sound of people witnessing truth. Witnessing vulnerability. Witnessing two women face something uncomfortable and walk through it instead of around it. Emma returned to her seat. Joy sat beside her, still visibly processing. The hosts gathered themselves, everyone trying to restore a sense of normalcy that would never fully return. Because something had changed in that studio, and soon the world would know. The show wrapped minutes later, but the emotional aftershocks lingered like static in the air. As the cameras powered down and the lights dimmed, the audience slowly dispersed, still whispering, still shaking their heads, still replaying moments in their minds. Backstage, Emma wiped her eyes while her publicist hovered nervously. Joy lingered near the door, unsure if she should say more, unsure if approaching would reopen wounds. But Emma made the choice for both of them. She walked over. Joy straightened, wary. Emma offered a small nod. I meant what I said. Thank you for listening. Joy pressed her lips together. Thank you for calling me out. Emma tilted her head. Most people don't say that. I'm not most people, Joy said dryly. Emma laughed softly. No, you're not. The moment was brief, but it mattered. When Emma stepped outside the studio, cameras flashed instantly. Reporters scrambled, microphones outstretched, voices overlapping in chaotic desperation. Emma, what happened in there? Did Joy really offend you? Are you two okay now? Will you respond on social media? Was the confrontation real or staged? Emma didn't answer a single one, because the moment wasn't theirs. It belonged to her. She smiled politely, lowered her gaze, and slipped into her waiting car. The door closed. Silence. A silence she had earned. Meanwhile, inside the building, Joy leaned against a hallway wall, overwhelmed by the sudden hush after the emotional storm. Sarah walked past and squeezed her arm. Sunny whispered a soft, "Good job out there." Whoopi simply nodded, her expression saying everything more clearly than words could. By evening, the internet exploded. Clips from the episodes circulated within minutes. Fan accounts posted slow-motion replays of Emma standing up, Joy's expression wavering, the audience shout echoing. Headlines erupted across social platforms. Emma Stone confronts Joy Behar on The View. A tense, emotional exchange goes viral. A new era of daytime TV? Viewers react to explosive interview. Raw, real, unfiltered. Emma opens up about emotional struggles. Joy Behar issues a rare on-air apology. Millions watched. Millions reacted, some praising Emma's bravery, others defending Joy, many marveling at the honesty and raw humanity of the moment. Hashtags trended globally. Memes flooded timelines. Think pieces bloomed across entertainment blogs. Fans debated furiously in the comments. One thing was undeniable. No one would forget what happened that day. And as for Emma, she didn't post anything. Not a statement. Not a tweet. Not a comment. Because she didn't need to. She had already said everything that mattered. And the world had listened. Just like you have. Now it's your turn. Tell me, whose side are you on? Emma's? Joy's? Or do you think both women had something important to say? Share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to Stage View for more explosive, dramatic, emotionally charged deep dives into the moments that leave Hollywood and the world speechless.